Once upon a time, there was a young man named Akio who lived in a small village in Japan. Akio was a hardworking farmer who tended to his rice fields every day and was known in the village for his dedication and perseverance. However, despite his hard work, Akio was never truly happy. He felt that something was missing in his life, and he could not put his finger on what it was. One day, as Akio was working in his fields, he saw an old man walking towards him. The old man was wearing a tattered robe and carrying a small bag. Akio greeted the old man and asked him where he was going. The old man replied, "I am searching for happiness." Akio was surprised and asked the old man how he could find happiness. The old man smiled and said, "Happiness is not something that you can find. It is something that you create." Akio was confused by the old man's words and asked him to explain. The old man sat down next to Akio and began to tell him a story. Once there was a wealthy merchant who had everything that he could possibly want. He had a large house, fine clothes, and many servants to attend to his every need. However, despite his wealth and possessions, the merchant was not happy. He felt that something was missing in his life. One day, the merchant heard about a wise man who lived in the mountains and was known for his great wisdom. The merchant decided to seek out the wise man and ask him how he could find happiness. After a long journey, the merchant finally reached the wise man's hut. The wise man greeted him and asked him what he wanted. The merchant replied, "I have everything that I could possibly want, but I am not happy. Please tell me how I can find happiness." The wise man thought for a moment and then said, "Happiness is not something that you can find. It is something that you create. You must learn to be content with what you have and not always want more." The merchant was confused by the wise man's words and asked him to explain. The wise man said, "You have been so focused on acquiring more and more that you have forgotten to appreciate what you already have. True happiness comes from within. It is not something that you can buy or acquire. It is a state of mind." The merchant realized that the wise man was right. He had been so focused on acquiring more wealth and possessions that he had forgotten to appreciate the things that he already had. From that day on, the merchant learned to be content with what he had and found true happiness. After hearing the old man's story, Akio understood that happiness was not something that he could find. It was something that he had to create for himself. He realized that he had been so focused on his work that he had forgotten to appreciate the small things in life. From that day on, Akio learned to appreciate the beauty of nature around him, the warmth of the sun on his face, and the company of his friends and family. He found true happiness in the simple things in life and was content with what he had. The lesson that Akio learned was that happiness is not something that can be found. It is a state of mind that is created through gratitude, contentment, and appreciation for the present moment. By focusing on the present and being grateful for what we have, we can find true happiness and contentment in life.